You're listening to the Toe Talks podcast. If I've taken the COVID shot, have I inherently increased my risk of cancer or even turbo cancer? If I'm in remission from cancer, am I at risk of reactivation of that cancer, plus the addition of another cancer after having taken the COVID jab? Am I more likely to get sick if I've taken the shot? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, is there something I can do to mitigate these incurred risks? Today, we'll answer all these questions, discuss research, and explain how everyone can reduce their risk of cancer while improving health through a post-shot protocol. We are the rugged, authentic savvy, and you're in the right place. Live free, pursue health. Powerful living starts in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to episode 15 of the Toe Talks podcast, Cancer's Deadliest Friend, mRNA. I'm your host, Dr. Toe. The questions I posed at the beginning of this episode are not easy questions for anyone to ask. I get asked these questions a lot from people who have taken the COVID shot, and they are asking all the right questions, all the very brave questions. And unfortunately, the answers I give are not easy to hear. The short, difficult answer to all of these questions is yes. Now, why do I believe this to be true? Because that is what the trends are showing and what research is supporting. You need to research and look for yourselves. I will attach all the research I'm about to talk about in the show notes so that you can look at it yourself. Don't believe me, go believe the research. I'm just reporting on it because I think it's so important for people to understand there is a problem, and you cannot understand what to do about a problem unless you understand where it's coming from. And unfortunately, the medical community as a whole is putting their head in the sand. They do not want people to understand that the spike protein that has been put into their blood via mRNA technology is destroying their health. But there are some things that we can do to combat this. Now, full disclosure, most of this podcast is going to be focusing on why mRNA technology is causing turbo cancers and affecting immunity. But we will briefly discuss some of the most important things you can do to protect yourself towards the end of the podcast. And then in my next podcast, we'll dive into more detail and give more information about these guidelines and protocols. But it's important for you to understand how these shots are affecting your body so that you will know how to effectively help yourself. And then you need to share this information with others. People need to know the truth. And unfortunately, the whole of the medical community right now is unwilling to tell people what is going on with their bodies. But the good news is there's good news. There are things you can do to help mitigate all of these risks by working to clear the spike protein that's been injected into your body and continues to circulate years after you've been injected, which puts you at risk for poor immunity and diseases. For all my listeners that are currently battling cancer, I highly encourage you to go read my case report entitled Case Report of a Swift and Unexpected Reversal of Small B-Cell Chronic Lymphocytic Leukemia Symptoms During Oral Chemotherapy Treatment with the introductions of the antiparasitic drugs ivermectin and fenbendazole. Then go get the protocol guide called the Early and Synergistic Chemotherapy CLL Treatment Guide. It's for anyone who has cancer and anyone who's undergoing chemotherapy. You will find benefit from the information. You can find both the case report and the protocol guide at drtoe.com. First, some newsworthy mentions before we get into the research that I really feel like I need to get off my chest and is important for all of you to know about. First of all, let me be the first to wish you a happy World Immunization Week. Yes, that's right. There is a World Immunization Week that runs from April 24th to the 30th. How about a month dedicated to do not immunize yourself with anything instead? Yeah, I got a text message from CVS telling me that I could get 14 different types of jabs in celebrating World Immunization Week. Thanks, but no thanks. All right, number 2. This is a warning if you have any pets, because the vets across the country are jabbing animals with an experimental self-amplifying RNA shot. Yes, the 2 words you want to focus, no, actually 3 words you need to focus in on are experimental, self-amplifying, and RNA. And you might be wondering, is that the same as mRNA? Yeah, it's just a special type of mRNA jab. The experimental drug is called Novavac. It's spelled Nobivac. And then it has the capital letters behind it, NXT. And guess who makes it? Merck. It's a self-amplifying jab, meaning it replicates. There is a second amplification of the body replicating the drug itself. But the scary part about this self-amplifying drug, what happens if the replication goes out of control? What then? And if you don't know, the FDA is fast-tracking a human self-amplifying bird flu jab. Just say no, folks. It's still experimental, just like the COVID jabs are still experimental. They're still under EUA. They will never approve it because they know it's dangerous. It's poison. But I digress. Next, COVID-19 booster shots, which were never put through clinical trials, mind you. They went through processing and straight into people's arms. So these booster shots, research now has demonstrated decrease pancreatic cancer survival rate by 50%, half. This is very worrisome. These patients die of cancer 50% more quickly than those who are unvaccinated. New research is also demonstrating an acceleration of dementia or Alzheimer's in patients who have taken the jab because of the spike protein. Can you imagine the ramifications of the healthcare burden that is going to be placed on this country as a result of reckless vaccination, which is not even vaccination. It's gene therapy. And actually, there are politicians right now who are trying to pass a law to qualify the COVID mRNA jabs as a biological weapon, because that's what they are, really. They are an abysmal failure. They did not save one single life. They've done nothing but damage people. Damage, maim, and kill. You need to know that you are being lied to by social media and MSM. Let me just give you a great example of this. Here's the title of a news article, and I quote, "Huge surge in stomach bug linked to tainted salad could explain explosion of colon cancer in young people. Disturbing new study suggests." End quote. Okay, they're giving you a partial truth here. Yeah, there is a huge surge in cancer in young people. Cancers that have never been seen before in young people. And I'm talking children. But it's not due to tainted salad from a stomach bug. No, 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 no. No, it is not. It is due to the very dangerous spike protein that they injected into people via a jab. They basically took the COVID virus, which is a tank, and took the most dangerous part of it out, which is the howitzer gun that sits on the tank, and they injected it into people. What they have essentially done is injected disease into people. It is a disease in its own right. This drug, which is experimental, has the potential to affect almost every major organ in the body. And it is now programming the body, because of the mRNA technology, to make this spike protein over and over and over again. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that these jabs are causing cancer. Why is that? Because a scientist genetically sequenced a tumor, a cancer tumor, and matched it genetically perfectly to the Pfizer jab. This is the smoking gun. If you want to hear more about that, go listen to my episode called Turbo Cancer, Fallacy or Fact, for more details. But I also know from my own experience, and I have a sneaky suspicion you might be experiencing the same thing, in that I have seen friends get diagnosed, or friends with family members get diagnosed with cancer, and shortly thereafter, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they're in hospice. It's undeniable that turbo cancer exists, and it's undeniable of what's causing it. Let me just tell you about a first responder post that I recently saw on X. Her name is Melanie, and if you recall, the jabs were offered to healthcare workers and first responders when they first were rolled out. And this is what she says. She says she developed turbo cancer and a serious autoimmune disease. She also discovered the notorious, quote, fibrous white clots, end quote, appearing in the lymph node drainage tube she had to use following her lymph node surgery for the metastatic cancer that she was battling. Then she goes on to talk about how she was contacted by Albert Benavidez, who told her that the first Moderna COVID injection she took, and she's taken 4 in total, belongs to the, and I quote, most toxic batch in all the VAERS universe, end quote. If you know what VAERS is, VAERS, it's basically the alert system to let us know that a drug is killing people or maiming them in their health somehow. Unfortunately, people have ignored this warning system. She also goes on to say that this batch in particular is known as the Puerto Rico lot because most of the deaths it has caused have occurred in Puerto Rico, which is probably where the majority of them were given. Anecdotal data, but the story is very powerful, is it not? Now I want you to listen to a very intelligent man named Nicholas Hulscher, who has a master's degree in public health. He gives a great synopsis on just how this mRNA technology is creating cancers in the human body. Let's listen in.
Yeah, we have multiple studies now demonstrating a link between these COVID-19 shots and cancer. We have about 10 case reports in the peer-reviewed literature where people get these shots and then all of a sudden they get these massive tumors in rare spots. Usually you don't see tumors in these spots. And so they get these so-called turbo cancers where they might have some cancer activity in their body before the shot, but it's largely checked. It's checked in place, and then you introduce these immune dysregulating genetic injections, and it kind of unchecks that balance, and then this cancer grows uncontrollably. And there's a study in the journal Curious, and that shows the COVID-19 mRNA injections do fulfill the multi-hit hypothesis of oncogenesis of cancer. And this is because likely a large part is because of the spike protein, actually. It's been shown to suppress tumor suppressor genes. So your body can't suppress these cancers as well. Again, dysregulates the immune system. And then this DNA contamination is also cancer promoting. These SV40 promoter enhancer sequences that are from the manufacturing process are still in the vials above regulatory limits, and so this DNA gets into your cells and causes havoc. And if we look at the CDC data, there have been people that have analyzed it, and they have found about 100,000 excess cancer deaths since the vaccines rolled out. And so the cancers are skyrocketing. I know multiple physicians in large hospital systems that have also said they're seeing these cancers in people. They've never seen them in them before. They're afraid to speak out, though. They don't want to lose their job. And so, yeah, we're seeing this cancer situation, and this needs large-scale study with large population sizes, large sample sizes, to finally get to the bottom of this.
Mr. Holscher works for the McCullough Foundation, and that's a great resource for information. If you're not connected with that, you can find it on X. Now, I have to say, the last part of that video hits home hard for me, not just because of the information, the content that he's talking about, but the very end where he talks about doctors seeing it and being afraid to say something. And I know this is happening because I have seen it with my own eyes. I have talked to doctors who have said exactly what he has explained. They're afraid to lose their jobs, their careers. Well, what I got to say to you is get out of medicine if you can't have a backbone, because there are plenty of healthcare workers, 80,000 plus, who walked off their jobs the second that these COVID jabs came on the scene, and they lost their livelihoods. So you know what? It's your turn. The buck stops here. It stops with you. And if you're really about doing no harm and practicing medicine, you're gonna start speaking up and protecting your patients. Stand up. Speak out. You know what's happening. You know the truth. Doctors are no longer practicing medicine. They have been reduced to medical technicians and pharma drug pushers who follow protocols and take orders from hospital administrators who have no degree in medicine, or government entities or medical schools. Offensive medicine, where MDs think for themselves, protect their patients, and actually practice medicine, is dying and almost dead. I'm not going to say it's totally dead, because I do know that there are people out there that are doing the right things, but they are a very small percentage. It's time for the medical community as a whole to stand up. So if you are in the healthcare profession, if you are especially a physician, you need to start telling your patients the truth and doing what is right for them. All right, let's get back to the subject at hand. mRNA causing cancer, increasing the risk of cancer, and increasing disease processes in human beings, having highly negative effects on immunity in human beings. The mounting research is now proving a link between mRNA and cancer, no question. The spike protein suppresses cancer-killing cells. The manufacturing process of the shots is majorly flawed because the shots contain DNA plasmid fragments, that's fragments that do not belong to human beings, and the cancer-causing promoter SV40. You really should look it up if you hadn't heard about this ingredient that's in a lot of jabs. A new peer-reviewed study by 19 German scientists links the mRNA COVID vaccines to long-term changes in genetic structures that can provoke an inflammatory response and therefore lead to the onset of cancer and, autoimmune disorders. And didn't we just talk about an anecdotal story about a first responder who has turbo cancer along with an autoimmune disease? We did. This is where life and research come together. But here's the most important part about this study that you really need to remember and listen carefully. The mRNA vaccines can alter human chromosomes in ways linked to leukemia and brain tumors. This occurs when the mRNA vaccines, quote, train, end quote, immune cells to sustain a pro-inflammatory immune response. Do you remember when they told us these jabs wouldn't change our DNA and that they would stay in the deltoid muscle of the arm where they get injected? They would not float around the body or get into the bloodstream. Well, unfortunately, the clinical trials when testing the mRNA technology proved otherwise. And who remembers the video on YouTube with Bill Gates? He basically told us, yes, we're going to change your DNA. Let's go revisit really quick.
One final way that's new and is promising is called the RNA vaccine. With RNA and DNA, instead of putting that shape in, you put instructions in the code to make that shape. You put instructions in the code to make that shape.
Well, now we have proof. It alters human chromosomes, that's DNA, and causes pro-inflammatory immune response. That's autoimmune, and by extension, cancer. This study adds to the large body of evidence describing potential immune dysregulating effects of the mRNA injections. Basically, what this research is saying is that these injections create genetic changes in the chromosomes of histones. And histones play a key role in processing the genetic material because DNA wraps around the histone proteins, which create the spiral effect in the DNA molecule. These shots, in turn, affect monocytes, which are part of your immunity because they are white blood cells, which in turn then affect macrophages produced by the monocytes. And now you can understand why the injections are creating cancers such as leukemia and brain tumors. Further, specific genetic alterations or mutations have been found or identified in cancers such as leukemia and brain tumors called gliomas. It's a thumbprint. This alteration is likely to occur in the bone marrow where leukemia can originate. Ironically, Japan, having the high rate of mRNA jabs, has seen statistically significant increase in leukemia in 2022 and 2023. Let's look at some other research that talks about the incurred risks of these shots through landmark studies. So the sample size for this research was 99 million. I can't tell you how significant that is. 99 million. And they found higher risks for those who have taken the shots to include myocarditis, acute disseminating encephalomyelitis, cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, Guillain-Barré syndrome. Another study with a sample size of 85 million increased risk of heart attack, stroke, coronary artery disease, cardiac arrhythmia. Another study with 28 autopsies, so that's people who have passed away, demonstrate a causal link between the jabs and death from multiple organ systems failure. Another study which focused on catastrophic neurological and psychiatric damage done by the spike protein, increased risk of dementia, suicidal thoughts, homicidal ideation, psychosis, brain clots, schizophrenia, depression, violent behavior, cognitive decline, and delusions. Wow. This is quite the list. And I know about this time you're probably thinking, is there any good news for me? Is there any hope? And I want to be the first to tell you, if you hadn't heard, that there is so much hope. There is so much hope, even in the midst of this despair. Yes, there's hope, help, aid for those who have been injected with this poison. There's hope to prevent cancer. There's hope to improve immune defenses, improve health in general. But you got to start now. You have to admit that something has been done to you to harm you. That's the first step, honestly, because when people ask me for help for their family members, it's really the barrier is they don't think that these gene-based death jabs are the issue. And when I say they, I mean the family member, let's say it's a husband who's inquiring information from me about a sister or his wife or a son or daughter. It's the wife, sibling, or son or daughter that when this husband comes to them and says, we need to try this because of this reason, that those people are unwilling to see that this could possibly be a contributing factor to their failing health or the factor. And I'm not going to say that 100% of the time they are, but I would be willing to wager that 90% of the time they are, or they're a contributing factor for sure. So admitting that there's a problem is the first step so that you can begin to take steps to help yourself. And most of these steps are good steps for anybody to be taking in regards to improving their health. These are not things that are going to damage your health. All right, so let's get into it. There is a spike detoxification McCullough protocol. So that's Dr. Peter McCullough, world-renowned physician and researcher on almost all things COVID. Let's just put it that way. You can go look him up. He's got quite the resume. And most people who have been vaccinated need to be on this protocol for at least a year. And if you had the COVID virus but did not get the shot and are having problems with so-called long COVID, such as brain fog, low energy, and the such. Now, I think most of the long COVID issues out there are from the jab itself, but there is research now that is supportive that because this virus was a bioweapon, a biological weapon, and it was chimerically created or manipulated, for that reason, there is some amount of spike protein floating around in your body that needs to be eradicated or reduced. And they're finding that when you do this process of trying to reduce the spike protein, people's symptoms magically get better or fully resolve. You would benefit from this program as well. And it is suggested to be on it for a year to help degrade spike proteins. All right, so let's get into what the protocol is. I'm going to post it in the show notes so you can have it and look at it. But the base of this protocol calls for an enzyme called nanokinase, a supplement called bromelain, and another supplement called curcumin. So you might be asking yourself, what is nanokinase and where can I find it? Well, it is an enzyme and it can be found in a supplement that is created by the wellness company, and it's called the Ultimate Spike Detox Supplement. This specific supplement is for people who have had the shot. There is, however, another supplement very similar with nanokinase in it that is called Spike Support for those who have had COVID but not had the shot. Both can be found at the wellness company. And of course, the other two supplements are easily found in many different places, bromelain and curcumin. This is the base of this protocol. And I want to tell you too, that this protocol has a lot of research supporting it. So I'm just not tooting my own horn here. And Dr. McCullough is not just flippantly saying you should take these things. They're supported by a bunch of research, and you can see it in the show notes if you want to go research it. But this is the base of the protocol. Now, the rest of what I'm about to talk about is mainly for people who have been jabbed, but you may find benefit if you've had the virus and are suffering from these same things. So if you have autoimmune issues, add hydroxychloroquine. If you are having persistent infections, add ivermectin. If you're having significant signs of pleural pericardial problems involving the membrane around the heart and lungs, add colchicine. If you're experiencing neurological symptoms like brain fog, nicotine patch. And to enhance the body's natural pain-killing response and reduce inflammation in general, a low dose of naltrexone. Now, I also wanted to give you some great tips about improving your immunity in general, because if you have had the COVID jab, this will be an issue for you. This is truly I believe everybody should be doing this in order to protect themselves from viruses in general. So you need to get two things from me. It's a nose spray and a gargle. The nose spray is called Clear. It's XLEAR. And the gargle is called Spry, SPRY. And you spray your nose twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, and you gargle twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, religiously. Now, what does this do for you? It basically, if you get exposed by somebody who has a virus, the first thing it's going to do is hang out in your mucosal membranes. It's going to come in through your mouth and nose. Hence the reason why you spray your nose and you gargle. And basically what you're doing is you're clearing out the viral load. You're stopping the process. You're not allowing it to continue to multiply, replicate. You have about between 3 and 5 days after being exposed to a virus from somebody else or somewhere in the environment to stop it, to keep from getting sick or lessen symptoms. Very cheap, inexpensive way to protect your health from viruses in general. The other thing I would encourage you to do, if you want more information like what I just told you, is to go to drtoe.com, download your free copy of my ebook called Kicking the Viral Load. I wrote it because I had so many people asking me how to help their immune systems in general, because they were wondering what I was doing for my husband, who is immune compromised because he has CLL, a cancer, leukemia, and he was staying healthy even when I got sick and was sleeping in the same room, same bed as him, or one of our kids in the same household didn't get sick. So there are ways to mitigate. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but it's pretty darn effective. Kicking the Viral Load ebook. You won't regret it. Share it with somebody else who might need it. You might be wondering why, with the tsunami of research and the overwhelming trends of disease, hospitalization, and death that has come in the wake of these shots, why are they still on the market? And the answer is twofold. One, the medical community as a whole, medical physicians need to stand up. Until they stand up and say, no more, we're not recommending them anymore, they need to come off the market. Until the whole of the community stands up and says, no more, it will continue. They need to stand up to Big Pharma is basically what it comes down to. And number two, until the teaching hospitals and the teaching universities stop supporting it, it will continue. Why are they supporting it? I know you can connect the dots. It's because they get the majority of their funding from Fat Pharma. And until those apron strings of money are cut, or until those universities say, we're not taking your dirty money anymore, this will continue. They will continue to rule the roost over our health. They do not have our best interests in mind. Our health is always at risk in their hands because we are dollar sign to them. We are not human beings. And unfortunately, doctors are seeing their jobs instead of seeing us as patients. They're seeing their careers. They're seeing their paychecks instead of seeing us as human beings. And now we come to it. So what? So what, Dr. Toe? So what if cancer's deadliest friend is mRNA and I am vaccinated? What then? Well, you've taken the most important step that you can take, and that's admitting that harm has been done to you. And now you could do something about it. Fight. Don't sit on your hands. Don't let those who harmed you win. There's hope. There's help. Educate yourself and find like-minded people to gain support and wisdom. And if you don't know Jesus, wrap your arms around him. Give your life to him because he can do anything. He's the God of the universe, and he loves you more than anything on this earth. That's a wrap. If you like what you heard, please share. Want to hear more? Please subscribe. And if you're a faithful listener, thank you for all your love and support, because without you, I would not be here. I'm glad you are along on this journey with me. We have each other and we are not alone. Pursue health, live free, and breathe deep. Until next time, this is Dr. Toe, signing off. Important disclaimer. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am not a medical doctor and I do not diagnose, advise, or treat. This podcast is not intended for the substitute of advice from a personal physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. It is not intended to be used or relied upon for any diagnostic or treatment purposes, or to be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis, treatment, or conventional medical therapy. None of the statements made in this podcast have been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or for guidance about specific medical conditions. Listen responsibly.